Why hello guys, so I wanted to give you guys another review. So yesterday I saw Stoker and I've wanted to see this movie for ages because I first heard about it in October, which means I've known about it for like 10 months. I guess you could say I was stoked for it. I need to find my sunglasses. Stoked for it. Now before I start, I want to give you a little bit of an idea of what the plot is. Basically the idea is that India Stoker, played by the great Masikowska, who I also think is great because she's Australian. India's father, Patrick, is killed in a mysterious accident. And following the funeral, Evelyn, which is India's mother, and Patrick's widow, is that how you use that term? Either way, she invites Charlie, which is Patrick's brother. They move in and then it starts getting a little bit Hamlet up in here, if you know what I'm talking about. They kiss and they make out and they presumably have the sexy times. I don't know, I don't think you see it. And stuff gets dark and twisted and evil from there. So the first pro that I definitely have to give this is the presentation, and this is on a couple of levels. First off is just the presentation in general. Like, the house is beautiful, it's got these very nice bedrooms, and then it's got the really simple dining room, and then the very Victorian-esque piano room, and the sprawling grounds, and the freezer room that's meant to be all creepy and stuff. Plus the way that characters are dressed are perfect. India, who's kind of reclusive, has this kind of 1950s very conservative look, whereas Evelyn, played by Nicole Kidman, is very nice and somewhat revealing dresses. And it's just beautiful. The way that it's shot was also really beautiful. I don't know if this is considered to be an art house film, but I kind of would, because the way everything's shot and the way everything is just a work of art. I absolutely adore it. Some of the symbolism also in there is just really strong and really interesting and thematic. Like, there's this part at the start where you don't really know what the significance of all of this is, and then you find out the entire movie is kind of working up to this point, and it has this really crazy awesome symbolism. And the final thing that I definitely have to talk about is the tone. You might think that this is kind of like, it's the tone, it's not really important. But when it comes to this movie, it is all about making you feel uncomfortable. Because when it comes down to this, it could be considered a horror, but when it comes down to it, there is very little actual horror. You don't really see tons of people just stabbing and choking and pulling people and dragging them into the pits of hell. It's very much this kind of movie that isn't horrific, but it's really creepy. You're always kind of stuck in the middle of this situation where you don't know if these characters are in a nice, safe situation or they're about to be murdered. And that makes a very big part in this movie, and I think that is what it makes it just shine. Like, I have watched a few horror movies, like I watched the Paranormal Activity and stuff because I was like, oh, what's this about? I'm not gonna lie, when I watched those I was freaked out because you have all this like, oh, something's gonna happen, but what's gonna happen? What I think sets this movie apart is that quite a lot of the time they have all this build up, but then nothing happens. And then you don't really get that kind of like, oh, okay, the demon's showing up, calm down. And what's more, over time you start to expect, okay, she's got her finger on the trigger, blah 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 blah, the gunshot didn't go off. And then when it does, you're just like, what? You're just kind of like shocked at like how loud it is. One way or another, it makes the movie so good. I also have to kind of put the last part of the plot, because the way that the plot unravels and everybody's psyche just becomes kind of undone near the end. I don't know if it's because I'm in love with a psychological thriller kind of stuff and I like seeing blood and stuff without possibly giving spoilers, sorry. But the ending is really good. And what also kind of goes hand in hand with this is the characters and their development. I'm not gonna lie, when it comes right down to it, there are only really 3 main characters, which are India, her mother Evelyn, and Charlie. A lot of the other characters kind of serve to flesh out those characters to a degree. There are other characters that end up kind of being a bit peripheral in that they just kind of show different things about each of the characters. Primarily Charlie, because he's kind of like the, ooh, he's got a mysterious past and such. Primarily just because I want to have a nice kind of rounded review, I will mention one con. And that con is kind of the start, because I thought it was a little bit too kind of flowery. I would like to preface the rest of this by saying that I have never seen an art house movie before. I can't even really think of any kind of movie that I've seen that's really been like, ooh, it's so cool looking and stuff. Seriously, the only thing that comes to mind is Max Payne 3. That's not a movie. Basically, the only issue is that at the very start, there wasn't really much happening. I mean, granted at the start, we don't really know anything, so they've got to introduce all the characters. But I was still a bit kind of like, oh, okay, we've had 20 minutes of really cool special effects. Can we have something happening? Maybe? I've got to say though, given the middle and the ending and everything, having the first quarter of an hour, so having not really much, it's not really that big of a deal in the grand scheme of things. You'll forget the stuff that you didn't like about the start much quicker than you'll forget about how awesome the movie was overall. So let's look at my final verdict. I'm not gonna lie, the very start of it kind of disappointed me because I kind of had this mentality of this is going to be the best movie ever and clean up at the Oscars before I'd even seen it. And while I'm not necessarily sure that that's going to be the case, I can definitely say that this is a fantastic movie. With me and my friend never have seen art house, he hadn't seen anything that's really horror gore stuff. We both absolutely loved it, but it was one of the best movies we have ever seen, so I can 100% recommend this. Regardless, I will say au revoir for now. I've got assignments and stuff that I'm working on for schools, but I'm hoping that I'll be able to get my somewhat big project-y kind of things going in the holidays. Regardless, subscribe and like so you can find out about them. And I love your no wait, that's Phil. I'm stealing Philip DeFranco's thing. I love your colons. Okay, bye.